The tumble of a die, a sense of anticipation in the air, and maybe just a hint of desperation. Must be time for a skill check. Hold your dice bag tight, and try not to hold your breath too long. Will your result be a critical success? Can you avoid an epic fail? Or will the difficulty check simply be too much? Join us for today's skill check. Body, it's time for a skill check. What skill are we checking today? Science! Evolution, to be in fact. I see so many people rolling poorly on it lately. I feel inclined to make another educational video explaining it more clearly. Because as long as people continue to fail, people like me will continue to make videos. So if you're tired of evolution educational videos, find a place and just burn all the bad ones that bring up science and religion and want to intertwine it and so on and so forth. Well, that's your prerogative. I'm not suggesting you burn Bibles or anything. That would be ridiculous. But feel free to take that quote out of context and stick it in any forum you like just to drive traffic here, because Lord knows I need the exposure. This is how it's going to work. I'm going to say a statement, and you will shout at your monitor or whatever, true or false after each sentence. And then at the end I'll tell you how much of it was false and what your score is. Sound fair? Sounds fair to me. My game, my rules. If not, you can take up with the DM, which is me. Ha ha ha. So, true or false? I don't believe in evolution. Evolution is just a theory that can't be proven. And it isn't real science anyway. I mean, I didn't come from no monkey. And if we did come from monkeys, why are there monkeys left? That was a statement. Now, if you said yes to one or more of those things, fail. Fail. If you said yes to or true to all of those things, epic fail. Good job. You failed so hard you broke my ability to spell. And the spell checker, apparently. He just left. Just left. You shamed the spell checker, those of you that got the epic fail. Now, let's break it down as to why. I don't believe in evolution. Evolution is not a religion. It is not a creation myth. It has nothing to do with the origin of life or species. It has nothing to do with the Big Bang Theory, and it isn't solely based upon one book written by one person with no one allowed to change it ever without it being called heresy. Because science is not a religion. They're two separate things with two separate processes, and I'm going to keep the religion talk to a minimum, except for a few trolling comments just to drive the traffic, because I want to see how well I can play Puppet Master. Science doesn't work that way. Science consists of a large amount of study, research, study, testing, study, and using evidence to prove and or disprove their hypothesis. There is no belief, only understanding. Next section. Evolution is just a theory. In science, to qualify as a theory, there needs to be a few things going on with it. It needs, 1, the ability to make predictions that can be proven false with consistency and accuracy across a broad range of scientific inquiry. It can't just work in one, it has to work across multiple. We use evolution and medicine and biology and all sorts of other fun stuff. 2, well supported by many independent strands of evidence rather than a single foundation. That means there isn't just one thing that says that evolution is correct, but however we look at it, it applies. Because evolution is just adaptation over time. But we'll get to that in a few moments. Consistent with pre-existing theories and or other experimental results. Because everything works together. 4. It can be adapted and modified to account for new evidence as it is discovered. If you discover evidence that doesn't support it, then that would actually disprove the theory of evolution. But so far, everything we bring in kind of qualifies, and even some of the stuff that doesn't seem like it fit in just requires more study, because that's how science works. And I'm washing a windshield. And preferably, but not required, it is the most parsimonious explanation. Parsimonious means that it is the simplest to a degree, and I'll throw up a text box that says in more detail because it's a lot to say out loud and it can be quite confusing, which is why it's optional. Because sometimes the most parsimonious example wasn't the right one. Anyways, so telling a scientist that something is just a theory is about like saying a Porsche is just a car, the Super Bowl, World Cup, Indy 500, insert other massive sporting event here, is just a game. The Pope is just some old guy, or even what's so great about the Bible. It's just some old book. It jumps around a lot, and it's got enough plot holes to hide Jesus' extended family. And my God, what's with all the Deus Ex Machinas? The main characters come across as useless. It's almost like just any schmuck could do their job. I mean, technically, those things are true, but the underlying implication suggests the person saying it is disrespecting what you're talking about. Dance, puppets, dance. Anyways, evolution isn't real science and can't be proven. I link these two together because they're kind of interrelated. You see, it is a real science if it can actually be proven or disproven on a consistent basis. Something like, say, astrology, the horoscopes and all that. Because there's so many variables in people's lives, they can't necessarily be proven or disproven, so they're not exactly a science, if you will. But this means that if evolution can be proven or disproven, then it is in fact a science. And proving evolution is fairly easy, since evolution is that through small changes, a species can adapt to its environment, and it is possible that if it gathers enough adaptations, it will become a new species in and of itself. And this adaptation can be most easily seen on kind of the small scale, like really small, like my zoom isn't that good, small, with penicillin and other antibiotics, and even some antibacterials. Anyone hear of these so-called superbugs? That's natural selection at work. You see, if bacteria with a resistance to the antibiotic or the antibacterial, that's why most antibacterials say 99.99%, it's because 0.1% are surviving because they're probably resistant to it. But anyways, the ones the antibiotic doesn't kill will survive and become resistant to it. And if it builds up over time, you'll run into strains of the bacteria that are completely resistant to the current antibiotics. For the most part, you can create new antibiotics, which is why antibiotics work, because we use to figure out how to get past their defenses. Anyways, disproving evolution would be a lot more difficult, and we will get to that on the next point. I didn't come from no monkeys, ... Why are there still monkeys? Saltation is not evolution. Saltation is the ideas that species make massive leaps and changes similar to this. As you can see, they change quite a bit. This is actually closer to growing up, but many people think of this or something similar to this when they think of evolution. And of the Pokemon, Eevee is slightly closer to evolution, and its name actually comes from the first 2 letters of evolution. Because you give fire to Eevee, it turns fire, grass, so on and so forth. Anyways, but this, however, is slightly closer. And even that, immense as it is, 1, barely covers the scope of Digivolutions in the Digimon series. That is for maybe 6 of the rookies. There are, last I counted, about 80 or so more of those you could do, each with their own branching trees that split out like that, with thousands of Digimon in the Digimon world, all that come from those 85 kind of basics. And those are actually mid-level. You can even go smaller than that, and there's even less of those. And 2, putting the thousands of Digimon from the digital world, probably even more than that. I didn't actually go and count those, but yeah, thousands, on a massive branching list that would probably cover the wall behind me and then some, would barely cover a fraction of all life on Earth right now in a branching tree, let alone the millions, billions, trillions? I'm not good with numbers. We'll go with infinitesimillions. 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 I probably made that up, but I like how it rolls off the tongue. Anyways, the infinitesimillions amount of possibilities you could get from natural selection, because some of the variations can be small and some of them can be massive, depending on the adaptation, mutation, whatever. And so that brings us to the whole missing link thing. I didn't mention that in the opening, but yeah, when you have millions, there's like thousands of links you could find and millions more that could be missing. But as for the second half of that statement, why are there monkeys left? As with both Digivolution and Pokemon's evolution, it happens on an individual basis. One individual grows up, but you may have one turn into a Greymon, but the rest are still Agumon. You still have Charmander, well, there's Charizards and Charmeleons. But unlike those, they're not along a set path. And Digimon's still more branching, but there's still ways it could go that many of us have probably never imagined. Origin of species, or whatever one he talks about apes in. I get my books mixed up. Darwin just hypothesized that humans, monkeys, apes, because they have many similarities, shared a common ancestor. That ancestor then eventually branched off into the various apes, monkeys, and humans, because there was a whole branch of humans, Neanderthals, in various shapes and sizes. We were just the most adapted, I guess you'd say. I'll post a link to a cracked article that talks about it, but apparently our Homo Sapiens sapien ancestors were quite fond of either fornicating or murdering the various other humans. We're kind of a byproduct of probably the best traits of all of them. Probably. Oh, and as for this, full of shit. Many people think of that when they think of evolution, but yeah, that's not how it went. And the continued use of this is about like referencing a model of the flat Earth. A map of the world with only an ocean in the Western Hemisphere. Talking about the Super Nintendo when talking about violence in video games. Or the Crusades to talk about corruption in the modern church. In that a lot has happened since those. Anyways, that's it for today's skill check. Knowledge, science, evolution. Just as the dice falls as may, who knows what skill we'll check next. Join us. Or die. I don't hate all puns, just bad ones.